new Prius Prime is, in a lot of ways, worse at being a car than the standard Prius liftback. Then again, it's also a lot better at being a Prius. Okay, so maybe that didn't make a whole lot of sense coming out of my mouth. Let me explain. Now, the Prime is the plug-in version of Toyota's signature Prius hybrid, which means it has the ability to plug itself in and recharge and increased electric capacity. However, the hardware to do so has to go somewhere, so Toyota just bunged a bunch of extra batteries in the trunk. That means that the Prime has significantly less space for your stuff than the standard Prius. Space is at a premium here, especially if you want to use the privacy shield to hide your stuff from the bad guys. Now on the road, the Prime feels, well, like what it is, a heavier version of Toyota's Prius. Despite using lightweight composites in some of the body panels, those extra batteries just add a whole lot of extra weight to the equation, around 300 pounds to the bottom line, most of which you'll find back behind and above the rear wheels. Not a great place for it. And you can really feel the weight when you're in the corners, thanks a lot to the Prius's sort of really overboosted steering and loosey-goosey handling. You can also feel the weight when you're doing things like accelerating up a hill or trying to maintain a freeway speed. Generally speaking, the gasoline portion of this hybrid powertrain really just sort of feels like it's always working harder than it needs to. Now, if you never plug this thing in, just drive it around like a regular Prius, the 121 horsepower hybrid powertrain will return 54 miles per gallon combined. Though, if you bought a Prius plug-in and you never plug it in, well, you're kind of doing it wrong. A recharge takes around 2 hours at level 2 speeds and will net you about 25 miles of gasoline-free, fully electric motoring. It'll also pull the EPA's estimate up to 133 combined miles per gallon equivalent. Now, I've been driving around 60 miles a day and recharging almost daily, and I'm averaging between 80 and 90 miles per gallon. That's not bad at all, though with regular recharges or a shorter commute that's less highway focused, I could definitely do a whole lot better. Now, the efficiency is great, but the thing that I really like about plug-in hybrids like the Prime here is the flexibility that they give you over your energy. So, for example, I don't need to use my 25 miles of electric range at the beginning of the trip. If I've got a long highway leg, I can push a button and force it into hybrid operation and save my electric range for the more densely packed city area at the end of the trip, where it'll make a bigger impact on the fuel economy. Or I can just let the computer figure it all out. It's as complex or as simple as I need it to be. Now, while we're here, we have to talk about the tech, which is kind of a mess. Toyota's outfitted the Prime with this large, vertically oriented touchscreen system, which is flashy, but also kind of terrible. I think it's the worst part of driving the Prime this week. Physically, the screen tends to get glare and washes out in the sunlight, so you got this huge screen and half the time you can't see anything on it. Plus, the interface is just doing a whole lot of stuff. You've got this big map that also serves as the background of the interface, and these widgets that come sliding in from the bottom and the sides depending on which function you're using. Overall, I just feel like there's too much going on here, especially when you're in the city and the streets are close together. That map adds a whole lot of visual noise to the interface, and it can be really hard to even just find your car on the map because its position moves around depending on which functions you're currently displaying. It's not that I don't like vertical screens, because Volvo does a really good job with its Sensus system, which also uses a similar configuration, but it's just better designed and easier to use. We'll talk more about it in a separate video. Now, the driver aid suite is not a whole lot better. This car is a huge electronic nanny that's always beeping at me for something. There's a car in my blind spot, beep. If I get too close to the markers on the side of the road, I get a beep, beep, beep. If I'm parking and I get too close to a bush, beep. And then if a car comes by while I'm doing it, beep, 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 beep. If I'm in the middle of a parking lot by myself and I put this car into reverse, it just starts going beep, beep, beep. Look, Toyota, I know that the car is in reverse. I'm the one that just put it into reverse. I don't need this beeping in the cabin, so just shut it. Fortunately, you can turn off half of those beeps if you choose to dig really deep into the menus, and the whole driver aid suite's not total crap. You've got some good features like adaptive cruise control that works all the way down to stop and go speed. You've got lane departure prevention that'll steer you back into your lane if you get distracted by this huge stupid interface. And you've also got semi-automatic parallel parking assist, which will help you steer into a parking spot, though on the first and last time that I used it, it managed to pretty badly scuff its own wheel on the curb. I've never seen a robo-parking system curb itself that badly, so I'll probably be doing my own steering for the rest of the driving. Thanks so much. Now, when I say that the Prime is a worse car but a better Prius, I mean that those things that make a good car good, cargo capacity, handling and performance, being easy to live with on a day-to-day basis, are just not as good here as they are in the standard model. Though, for those compromises, the Prime does return a lot better fuel economy and much better potential for efficiency. And as we all know, MPGs are what make a Prius a Prius. The Prius Prime starts at around $27,000 for the entry model, which, interestingly, if you get all the tax credits and incentives, ends up being a little bit cheaper than the standard Prius on the bottom line. However, this advanced model with all its bells and whistles starts at around $33,000. Now, the Prius Prime is not a disappointment, but it is disappointing. Believe it or not, I'm actually a fan of the standard Prius of this generation, though don't go telling everybody that. But Toyota actually had a really good starting point on which to build its plug-in hybrid model. But instead, it decided to go meddling with all those things that don't really matter to the driving experience, creating a lot of unnecessary compromises and small frustrations that just make the Prime hard to live with on a daily basis, even though its plug-in hybrid powertrain is more efficient and more flexible, making it a much better bargain and a much better Prius.